reforms to the redistricting process for state and federal offices so that districts are drawn in a way that's neutral, that promotes fair and effective representation for all, and that can't be abused to protect incumbents and undercut electoral competition.
Attorney General Eric Holder last night proposing the radical outre concept that elections ought to be run in a neutral way, a way that is not designed to favor one party or the other. It's crazy, right? The man's gone crazy. Joining us now is Steve Kornacki from Salon.com, the co-host of MSNBC's 3 p.m. show, The Cycle. Steve, it's good to have you here.
Great to be here.
Some Republican-controlled states, including Ohio and Virginia, are talking about making their state vote for president the same way they vote for Congress and the legislature, which right now is set up in a way that dramatically favors Republicans, no matter how people vote. Is it feasible that they could do this?
It is feasible, sure, because they have the power. We're talking about states here where the Republican Party controls the governorship and controls both houses of the legislature. So they have the power to do it. And the significance, I literally have some back-of-the-envelope calculations.
That's an actual...
It is an envelope with some calculations on it. And this is, I think it's worth pointing out. See, those 4 states you mentioned in the first block, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Right now, this year in the 2012 election, the electoral vote count from those 4 states was 61-0 Obama. He won all 4 of those states. If you did this thing that they're talking about where it's awarded by congressional district, you get a vote for every congressional district you win, plus you get 2 if you win the state popular vote. That's basically the standard. If you did that, then Romney would have won 37 of those 61 electoral votes. So it would have taken the national margin from 332 to 206 Obama, which is what we have now, to 295, 243. Wow. So basically at that point, Florida, which was less than a point, could win it for Romney in that scenario, even with him losing the national popular vote by 4 points. And then I asked Dave Wasserman with the Cook Political Report, I said, if you did that in every state around the country, if that was the methodology for awarding electoral votes, how would this year have gone? He said 276, 262 Romney. Romney would have won if you did every state based on congressional district. And what's going on there is gerrymandering is part of it, and the other aspect of it is it's a lot of Democratic voters in a lot of big states are packed into geographically sort of small areas. It's cities, and the districts are drawn in ways that the city is the district. And so when you do that, it opens up these sort of wide swaths of suburbia that you can have 4, 5, 6 Republican-friendly districts drawn there, and that's where you also start to see some of those imbalances.
So like in a state like Pennsylvania, which everybody talks about Philadelphia being the key to that vote, if you win Philadelphia, that wouldn't get you anything more than winning any other place in the state, despite the huge number of people who live there.
Yeah, Pennsylvania would have been, under this system, 13-5 Romney this year.
Even though Obama won.
It's in 1988, the last time a Republican won there, you know?
There are only 2 states, Nebraska and Maine, that do their system anything like this. And their history of how they got there doesn't really have anything to do with, doesn't match the current history, I think, for why these things are being proposed in these Republican-led states right now. Given that this would be sort of uncharted territory for these states to go this direction, what do you think would be the political impact? What do you think? Would they be at risk for some sort of backlash? How do you think it would be How do you think people would react to it?
I think there are 2 things. One is you have to look at, I think you take these 4 states and separate them into 2. Look at Virginia and look at Ohio. These are states that, look, Obama won them this year, won them in 2008, but these are close states that Republicans can definitely be competing in 2016. So the one calculation there Republicans have to think where they might get some pause is, hey, if we can win these states outright in 2016, why are we potentially giving away 3 or 4 electoral votes in our states here? So there's that. But then look more at like Pennsylvania and Michigan. These are states that really have been lost causes for the Republicans in presidential elections. 1988, the last time they won either one of them. These are really much more safely blue states. And there you've got Republicans in the governorship, Republicans in the state legislature, but I think there is an awareness on the part of those Republicans at some level that they are existing in blue states with Democratic-friendly electorates. And if Democrats, and if the media cried foul and said, this is an explicitly political, sort of repurposing of election law, and if Democrats made this a major point of emphasis, that this was just this dramatic sort of unprecedented overreach on the Republicans' part, and it became an issue like that, I think there is a chance for a backlash that would make Republicans in those states look at it and say, okay, we have the power to enact whatever we want, but there are limits on that because of this backlash potential. So what are really our priorities here? And you look at Michigan, it's like, yeah, okay, right to work is going to be a priority. They're willing to take a lot of abuse for putting that through. I don't know if ultimately they would be willing to take a lot of abuse to help the national Republican Party when it wouldn't really help the state Republican Party.
See, I think that they would. I felt like that calculation was something that I thought would be a barrier to entry for them doing this until I saw them move on right to work.
Right.
And now I think, you know what, if they're willing to take the cradle of the American union rights, months and just ram it through, no debate. We're announcing it on Thursday. It's done by Thursday night. Screw you, state, screw you. We don't care. We don't want to hear about it. We'll deal with the consequences when we have to. To take that approach toward right to work is why I'm talking about this potential proposal for Michigan now, because now anything seems possible.
And we know, too, they didn't talk about right to work before they did it, and they haven't really talked about this until now, so it doesn't mean anything that they haven't really been making this an issue before now.
We are learning all sorts of new stuff about all sorts of uncharted territory we never thought we'd have to map. Steve Kornacki, host of MSNBC's 3 o'clock show, The Cycle, senior writer at Salon. Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Great to have you here. Can I keep the envelope?
You can have it, yep.
We'll put it in a file.